So, have you ever found yourself just completely unable to stop eating something?
Yeah.
Even when you actively want to?
Oh, yeah. That feeling where a certain food just seems to, well, grab hold of you, way beyond just liking it or even being hungry.
Exactly. It's like something else going on. Today, we're doing a deep dive into why that happens.
Right. We're moving past the simple idea of, just have power.
We want to explore the deeper reasons some foods feel so darn irrebuttable.
Well, I've got some fascinating stuff to look at today, mostly coming from a really insightful BBC video. It features a doctor, a scientist.
The guy who worked in the food industry for, 40 years?
Yeah, a real veteran, and also a researcher who studies addiction, specifically how it relates to these ultra-processed foods.
So our mission for you today is to really unpack the different factors, the things beyond just your own personal choice that make it tough to, regulate eating certain foods.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so where do we start? Challenging this whole willpower idea seems key.
Definitely. The video brings up some really striking data that makes you question that narrative straight away.
It does. They showed U.S. government data tracking obesity rates, and not just overall, but across all age group, gender, going way back to 1960.
And what's really noticeable is between 1960 and the mid-70s, things were pretty stable, relatively speaking.
But then, right around 1975, something shifts. You see this clear, significant jump upwards in obesity.
And crucially, it's happening simultaneously. Across the board, all these different groups start seeing increases at the same time.
Which leads to that big question they pose. Is it really plausible that everyone, all at once, just sort of lost their willpower in the mid-70s?
It seems, highly unlikely, doesn't it? It really suggests something else, something fundamental about our food or our environment.
And that's where the perspective of John Ruff, that 40-year food industry veteran, becomes so interesting. He's seen it from the inside.
Absolutely. Worked in multiple countries for lots of companies. He gives you that insider view.
And he's quite blunt about the industry's main goal, isn't he?
He is. He says the focus is squarely on optimizing all aspects of the product: flavor, taste, and crucially, texture.
The aiming.
Simple. Make a product that beats the competition. That sells more.
And it's not just guesswork. He mentioned using trained sensory panels.
Yeah, people whose job it is to rate these foods on really specific qualities, like how squishy is it, how hard, how soft, that perfect crunch.
Wow, that's a very deliberate process.
Wow.
Which brings us to texture's impact, because this is where it gets really fascinating.
It really is. How processing food in factories changes its fundamental texture. And that change isn't trivial. It affects how our bodies register fullness.
Right. The video explains how soft foods, the ones needing less chewing, can actually short-circuit the normal satiety mechanisms.
Think about that. Less chewing might mean your body doesn't get the usual memo that says, okay, I had enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're kind of bypassing one of the body's natural checks and balances for telling you you're full.
And the industry veteran pointed out, once they understood this link that softer could mean more eating well, that became an opportunity.
An opportunity to sell more, essentially.
Precisely. He used a great example, too, those snacks that seem crunchy at first bite, but then they just dissolve almost instantly in your mouth. Very little resistance.
Yeah, I know the type.
He makes the point that even though they feel light and airy, they can pack way more calories, more energy density than something that feels heavier, like a fatty burger.
That's counterintuitive.
It is, and there's an industry term for it. Vanishing caloric density describes those light, puffy, melt-in-your-mouth foods perfectly.
Vanishing caloric density. Wow, so you eat them, they disappear, you don't feel full, you want more.
And you've potentially consumed a lot of calories without really registering it.
But, okay, the video also stressed it's not just about the food's physical stuff, taste, texture. There's more at play.
Absolutely. The whole multisensory experience, everything around the food matters too.
Like the logos, the marketing, the branding, even the box it comes in.
Exactly. All of that shapes our perception, our desire. Eating uses all our senses, how it looks, smells, feels, even how it sounds.
Ah, the sonic branding part. I found that fascinating.
Yeah.
Like opening a fizzy drink. That specific snap of the tab, the shh sound, he said that's engineered.
Sound engineers and manufacturers apparently spend a lot of time getting those sounds just right. It's all part of the appeal, the experience.
It's designed to be satisfying.
Totally. Kellogg's Snap, Crackle, and Pop. That's the classic example. They instantly recognizable sounds linked directly to the product.
It makes sense. And this all ties into what the industry guy called stomach share.
Right. Food companies aren't just competing for your lunch money. They're trying to fill the time between meals, too.
They want you snacking all day long, occupying every possible eating moment.
Which naturally leads into the whole snacking culture and these ultra-processed foods.
Let's define that quickly. Ultra-processed. We're talking about things made through lots of industrial steps, often with added sugars, fats, artificial ingredients, stuff you wouldn't typically use in your kitchen.
Exactly. And the video shows a pretty typical modern pattern, right?
Yeah, like maybe you start with a breakfast shake. Convenient, on the go, often ultra-processed.
Then maybe mid-morning you grab those veggie straws, marketed as healthier, but still processed.
And then you've got snacks tied to exercise high-protein bars, low-sugar bars, which can also be heavily processed.
And don't forget the more-to-share type snacks that often get eaten alone, maybe watching TV.
Yeah. And there was that quote in the video, someone saying, "I do like them, and I cannot stop eating them, and I literally can't."
That really captures the feeling, doesn't it? That lack of control some people experience.
It does. So what is happening there? Is it just intense enjoyment or something more?
Well, this is where the research comparing ultra-processed foods to addictive substances comes in. It's pretty compelling stuff.
The researcher made a clear point about what actually triggers these key diagnostic indicators of addiction.
Right. It's not your basic minimally processed foods, fruits, vegetables, lean meats, beans. Those don't seem to cause this response.
It's the highly processed stuff, like chocolate, ice cream, pizza, foods that are, engineered. They don't just grow like that.
Precisely. The theory is that the potency and the reward power of these foods is just so high, so concentrated.
It kind of hijacks the brain's reward system.
That's the idea. It can trigger an addictive-like response, leading to compulsive eating even when you want to stop, even when you know there are negative consequences.
That's a really powerful concept. And the video also brings in the real-world factors, like access and marketing.
Yeah, that's crucial. For a lot of people, ultra-processed food is simply the most affordable, the most available option.
You combine that accessibility with the, frankly, sophisticated engineering and the massive marketing.
And these foods become incredibly hard to resist. It creates a very challenging environment.
And that empathetic message in the video really resonated.
The one saying, if someone is watching this and they are struggling, this is not your fault. It is not you. It is the food.
Yes, it shifts the focus from blaming the individual, which feels important.
It does. But of course, we also need to hear the industry side of it. The Food and Drink Federation gave a statement.
Right. What was their take?
Well, they said manufacturers take obesity and diet seriously. They emphasized investments in making healthier products,
claiming that UK shopping baskets now have less salt, sugar, calories than 10 years ago.
Yes, and that they're working to increase fiber, fruit, and veg content in food.
Okay. What about things like taxes or warning labels on unhealthy food?
They expressed concerns there, worried it could raise food costs and maybe discourage companies from investing in healthier options. They seem to prefer the UK's current traffic light labeling system,
which gives general guidance on fat, sugar, salt levels.
Right, and they support reviewing labeling, maybe looking at more positive labels for healthy choices.
Interestingly, they also mentioned the UK government's Scientific Advisory Committee.
Which apparently says there isn't quite enough solid scientific evidence yet to use ultra-processed food as a concept for official dietary guidelines or policy.
So basically, more research is needed before making big policy changes based on that specific term.
That seems to be the committee's current position. And the Federation added that if future research does clearly show processing itself is a health concern, the industry promises to act quickly and adapt.
So it's definitely an ongoing debate. Lots of angles.
For sure. Complex stuff.
Okay, so let's try and quickly sum up the main takeaway. We've moved from just blaming willpower
to seeing how the food system itself has changed. Industry optimization is key: flavor, taste, especially texture.
That soft texture thing can mess with our fullness signals.
And the whole experience matters: branding, sounds, the multisensory aspect.
Plus, the potential for ultra-processed foods, the engineered one, to trigger addictive-like eating patterns in some people.
And these foods are everywhere, heavily marketed, though the industry says it's working on health improvements, and the science is still evolving on the ultra-processed stuff.
Right. So the big insight really is why we struggle with these foods is complicated. It involves way more than just personal choice.
Exactly. The design, the manufacturing, the marketing, it all feeds into our habits and how much control we have.
So here's something for you listening, maybe think. Start noticing the subtle ways food is engineered and sold to you day to day.
Yeah, like what are those vanishing caloric density foods you eat? Do you notice the sounds packaging? How might that sonic branding be playing a role, maybe subconsciously?
Definitely gives you something to chew on, so to speak.